So in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at CAD-206. The whole idea of this drawing, this is quite simple. It's just going to be an exercise in using ortho, object snap tracking, and polar tracking. Alright, so if we have a look at the actual drawing just over here, I'm going to start up in this corner. The reason I'm choosing to start there is because if we have a look, we really don't know this length here. Now, a lot of people will assume it's the 10 millimeters that we see over here. It's actually not. We're just looking at this measurement here. The drawing doesn't actually give us the measurement. We also don't know this length here, so the easiest way to start, considering we know lengths and heights for all the rest of it, we'll start up at this point and we'll work our way around until we get to this point. So you can see these lines, they are all straight lines. There's a little note just down here saying all intersections are 90 degrees unless notified otherwise. So what that means is 90 degrees in all of these sections. We have an angle there, so that's obviously not 90. We have 90 degrees here, 90 degrees here, and we've got an angle given there. So the way we're going to do this, starting here with ortho on, you're just going to draw a line in the direction and type in the distance. So direction, distance, all the way until we get to this point here. Now when we get to this stage, you will see we have 150 degrees. Now remember, all our rotations come from 0, which is from your current cursor point, which by the time we get to here will be this point, and it rotates counterclockwise. And if you're using dynamic inputs, it's going to be a positive based on whether your mouse is above the 0 line or below the 0 line. So what we can look at in terms of this, if we've got 150 degrees in here, making up from this line all the way around to the other side is going to be 180. So if we take 150 from there, we're going to have an angle of 30 degrees. So we know that's 30 degrees. If we have 90 in here, we got to add 90 to 30 degrees, which is going to give us 120. And then we know we also have a 30 degree angle here because the remainder of the vertical will be 60. So at least 30 here. Now, we don't know this length, but we really don't need to know this length. I should have mentioned this before. In order to get the 30 degree angle, we're going to use polar tracking. So we're going to set that to a 30 degree angle, and it's going to work very similar to ortho in that you just snap onto the angle, move in the direction, type the distance. Once we get to this stage, we're just going to pull that up and then use object snap tracking. So with object snap tracking, the whole idea is that you can move over a snap point. So in this case, it'll be an end point, and we can track straight down, and we keep pulling our mouse straight down until you see a green dotted line here, and that will snap to your 30 degree angle, and that gives us that length and that height. So you'll then click there and close to finish the drawing, and that's pretty much it. So once we do have all that, to make sure that you've done this correct, this length here should be 9.244. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this drawing. Now, I'm just going to jump back and forward between this one just so you can see the measurements as I'm doing it. Okay, but we know the first length is going to be 50, 10, then we've got 70 minus 50 gives us 20, then we have 20 coming down, 90 minus 70 is giving us 20, down 23.7, and then across 33. So I'm just going to run through that fairly quickly until we get to that point, and then I'll slow down a touch. Okay, we're going to start. Now you'll notice I don't use grid or snap for any of my drawings unless I'm actually using grid and snap. Now the whole idea of that is just extra stuff that's in the background that doesn't need to be there. You're not using it, so you may as well get rid of it. Alright, so from here, now it's up to you whether you want to draw, do this using a line or a polyline. Either way, it doesn't really matter for this drawing. Generally, for me, in general practice, I would be using polylines. Polylines just make working with the jobs a bit easier later on. It also gives you like geometric centers and stuff like that. So I'm just going to use the polyline tool. I'm just going to click roughly anywhere where I want to start. And just down here, just making sure ortho is on. Okay, F8 is the one that toggles that on. And all we're going to do is just move in the direction, type in the distance. So having a look at the drawing, you can see our first direction is 50, and then we're going to come down 10, 20, 20, 20. Okay, so just moving in the direction, type in the distance 50, enter. Direction, distance 10, enter. Direction, distance 20, enter. And we just repeat that, so 20 down that way, across this way 20. And once we're there, if we have a look here, we've done this little step down to there. So now we're coming down 23.7, then we're going to go across 33. So down 23.7, enter, across 33, enter. Now I'll just zoom in and make this a bit bigger. Alright, so from here, we need to go up on that 30-degree angle. Easiest way to do this is you'll see right next to ortho down in your status bar there is a button called polar tracking. If we click on that, that will turn ortho off, and click the little downward arrow on the right hand side of that and you'll see we can set that to 30 degrees. Now mine's already set. If yours is not, just click on where it says 30 degrees. And the way this works is you just move your mouse up, and when you get to a 30-degree angle, you'll see it snaps and you get this green dotted line showing up. And down in your dynamic inputs there under the where the angle is, it should say polar. Don't worry about length, you can see that changes as we move the mouse around, but we're looking at the less than symbol, which means angle of 30 degrees. So in this case, all we're going to do is type in the length, which is 20. So 20. We then pull the mouse around until we snap to 120 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be the 30 plus the 90. And then we type in the distance, and if you missed it on the drawing, it is 10. So we'll pop that in there. 10. Okay. Now the next button you want to make sure you have switched on. This is object snap tracking. So looking back down in the status bar, you'll see this little icon down here. Looks like an angle with a little dash through the top line. Okay, so that's object snap tracking. If that's not on, then you won't be able to do this next step. Okay, so from here, what we're going to do is just move over the endpoint of the line where we started. You'll see how it says endpoint. Now, when you move down, you'll notice there's a little, it's a bit hard to see, there's a little green cross there. And as I pull down, you'll see we get a vertical tracking line that says perpendicular, and it's got an angle of 270. If we just keep pulling that down, you'll see if I move away, it disappears. Coming back over it, keep pulling down until we get the 30-degree snap. There we go. Now you'll see it says polar 30, perpendicular 270. What that's doing is that's drawing our line on a 30-degree angle, but it's bringing up in line with the endpoint of the top horizontal line, which is where we first started. So if we click when this shows up, that's given our line the length and the angle that we want. Then you can just type in C for close, or just go and click on the endpoint and enter. Alright, so there's our drawing complete. Now if we use the distance tool, so you can either use measure up here and choose distance if you like. I normally just use the quick key DI. So if you type in DI and enter, just click on the endpoint up the top, endpoint down the bottom, and you should see you get 9.24. Now mine's just showing 9.24 because I have my decimal places rounded off to 2 decimal places. If you have it set to 3, then it will show 9.244. Now I can show you that very quickly just by typing in units, okay, and enter, and changing my precision to 3 decimal places. Okay, you can set it to more if you like. But yeah, I might set these to 3 as well. Click OK. And if I check the distance again, so DI, enter, from top to bottom, 9.244. Okay, so if you've done all that, that should all be correct. And that's that drawing done. Okay, hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you on the next one.